Sometimes people are planted in our lives for a season to help us grow strong roots in hard times. My name is Ian Griffith. I'm 42 years old, husband to my wife Heidi for 19 years, and father to 3 daughters, Savannah who's 20, Emma who's 19, and Heaven who's 14. I'm a musician in the Tulsa, Oklahoma area, and my family and I currently live in Bartlesville, Oklahoma. But before I grew up to become the man I am standing here before you today, as a kid, I lived here in Albert Lea for about 6 years. In early 1994, my dad was sentenced to prison, and my world changed pretty fast. I was the oldest of 4, and overnight I became the man of the house, even though I was just an 11-year-old boy. At that time, we began going to church at Vineyard, and I was learning about Jesus. But what I knew about Jesus then was mostly from hearing and not from experiencing. My mom asked me to start going to the Rock. We were struggling to communicate and we needed space from each other, so I agreed. I didn't really know what to expect, but when I got there, I met people who lived out the love of Jesus in a way I had never seen before. People like Greg and Robin, their son Isaac, and at that time Joe Keller and Wendy Lowry became a lifelong influence on me by just being who they were. They didn't preach at me, they just cared. They listened, they made space for me, and that was something I really needed. Because at home, life was very different. I experienced physical, emotional, verbal, and spiritual abuse daily. There wasn't a lot of peace there. There wasn't safety. I didn't want to be there, but the Rock was safe. It was the first place I saw the love of Jesus without pressure and without fear. I wanted to be there. I needed that love. The Rock taught me how to be selfless, how to think about other people, how to show compassion, and how to practice empathy. For a kid who was confused, scared, and trying to hold his world together, that meant more than I could ever really fully explain. The Rock didn't fix all my problems, but it showed me how Jesus loves through people, and that stayed with me. The Rock was also the first place I ever sang in front of people. I sang What If I Stumble by DC Talk in a talent show. I didn't know it then, but that moment would become a seed. Years later, I would lead worship at Humble Road Church and eventually become a full-time musician. I don't know if I ever would have had the courage to sing in front of crowds if I hadn't first stood on the stage as a kid at the Rock. Life moved my family and I around. In 1997, a few months after my dad was released from prison, he and I moved to Quapaw, Oklahoma. A few months later, my mother and siblings followed us south and we moved with them to Kansas City. I spent most of my high school years there in inner city schools before we found ourselves back in Quapaw, where I graduated in 2001. My family's situation stayed complicated and unhealthy for a long time. Even today, for my own mental health and healing, I keep some distance. But I still love my parents, I still pray for them, and Jesus is still working. In January 2022, my life changed again. I used to walk every morning down to the local park band shell. I'd pray, worship, and sometimes talk to people who needed help and encouragement. But one day, I was the one who needed help. My stress and mental health finally hit a point where I couldn't just push through things anymore. I was taken off work and haven't been cleared to return since. But even in that season of difficulty in my mind, God was moving. God forced me to slow down and start to find a way to heal. He gave me space to begin recording the music I've been writing for over 25 years. I released my first 2 singles earlier this year, and I'm working now toward being able to support my family through music. And I believe truly that God is shaping something good out of this season. Believing in Jesus doesn't mean life is easy, but I have seen over and over that He always puts the right people in my path at the right time. The people from the Rock will always hold a very special place in my heart. The love I experienced there is still to this day one of the clearest examples of the love of Jesus that I have known in my life. The Rock wasn't just a building, it was one of the first places I truly experienced Jesus, not through force, not through fear, but through kindness, patience, compassion, empathy, and real love. At a time when my home life was full of confusion and pain, God placed people in my path who saw me, cared for me, and reminded me that I wasn't alone. And even though life has taken me many places since then, through hardship, through music, through healing, I can look back and see that Jesus was there the whole time, guiding me step by step. The Rock helped plant that in me. I'm still walking with Jesus today. I'm still learning, still trusting, not because my life has been easy, but because he has proven again and again that he is faithful and that he puts the right people in the right places at the right time. So from my heart, thank you to The Rock. Thank you to Greg and Robin. Thank you for loving the kid who needed it. Thank you for being a seed in my life that helped me grow stronger roots. Thank you for showing me Jesus. And thank you for being a part of the story that God is still writing in my life today. The greatest single cause of atheism in the world today is Christians who acknowledge Jesus with their lips and then walk out the door and deny him by their lifestyle. That is what the unbelieving world simply finds unbelievable. Is this one for the people? Is this one for the Lord? Or do I simply serenade for things I must afford? You can jumble them together, my conflict still remains. Your holiness is calling in the midst of courting fame. 'Cause I see the trust in their eyes, though the sky is falling. They need your love in their lives. Compromise is calling. What if I stumble? What if I fall? What if I lose my step and I make fools of us all? Will the love continue when my walk becomes a crow? What if I stumble? And what if I fall? Father, please forgive me, for I cannot compose the fear that lives within me, or the rate at which it grows. The struggle has a purpose on the narrow road you go. Why do I dread my trespasses will leave a deadly scar? Do they see the fear in my eyes? Are they so revealing? This time I cannot disguise all the doubt I'm feeling. What if I stumble? What if I fall? What if I lose my step and I make fools of us all? Will the love continue when my walk becomes a crow? What if I stumble? And what if I fall? Everyone's got to crawl, and you know that you're up against a wall. It's about to fall. Everyone's got to crawl, and you know that. Woo! Everyone's got to crawl, and you know that you're up against a wall. It's about to fall. Everyone's got to crawl, and you know that. Woo! I hear you whispering my name. You say my love for you will never change, never change. What if I stumble? What if I fall? What if I lose my step and I make fools of us all? Will the love continue when my walk becomes a crow? What if I stumble? And what if I stumble? And what if I fall? What if I lose my step and I make fools of us all?
Will the love continue when my walk becomes a crow? What if I stumble? And what if I fall? Is this one for the people? Is this one for the love?